What's up, guys? I'm Uncle Freedom, coming to you on a glorious and well-deserved kind of day off. I was called earlier today. I now have to go to work tonight, so yay team for that. I'm going to go upstairs and take a nap and try to stay awake all night. Is what it is. How's it going, guys? So today we're going to talk about something that I touched on in previous videos, and I kind of took a hiatus from it. That was when all that stuff happened. I started losing videos and what have you through YouTube. But it's time to talk about the gear portion of home defense itself. Now that we all know and understand the many considerations of home defense, the home defense situation, I'll leave a link to that video over here. It is now time to discuss the gear that goes into home defense, right? This is the part everybody gets excited about. It's the sexy part. It's the pews, it's the bags, it's the lights, it's all the awesome stuff, right? I should also note at this point in this video, I'm not going to show firearms today because I don't need YouTube to find another reason to hate this video, because I really want this information to get out. It is time to discuss the gear though. And you should have some combination of what I'm going to talk about here today. So first and foremost, the most important part of this equation that we're going to have is going to be the firearm itself, right? Number one for me, and it's more out of convenience than anything else, it is going to be the pistol. This is by far the most common and convenient home defense firearm that there is, period, right? Like most people will be like, oh yeah, but I have a handgun, I'm good, right? Like you hear that referred to all the time, the home defense handgun. By its design though, and its compact design, it is the most easy to handle firearm that we have access to inside of a home. But due to that very feature of it being the most easy to handle thing that we have, they are the hardest option that we've got to shoot effectively. Now, ballistically, we have another hurdle that comes with handguns. Ballistically, we have a couple of things that go against the handgun right out of the gate. First off, the terminal effect of terminal ballistics of a handgun round on your particular hypothetical Roblox character, get off me YouTube, aren't great. And it actually presents one of the highest risk of overpenetration that we've got in any of the options I'm going to discuss today. Some of that, a lot of the reason that we have is due to the lower overall velocity of the round that we're shooting and the higher typical mass that we're going to see associated with a handgun round. Now, due to how terminal ballistics work and not how marketing works, we actually need the mass on the projectile for adequate penetration when we start talking about handguns. Again, if you don't get the things that don't matter, it doesn't matter that you shot them. And unfortunately for the internet, like people that got super mad about things that I say mean things about Liberty Defense ammunition, guess what? I'm going to say mean things about it again. Super hyper lightweight projectiles in a handgun don't do what you need them to do. They're just a marketing gimmick to get you to buy into the bajillion foot-pounds of energy that doesn't mean anything in a handgun. We need a heavier weight handgun round to get the penetration that we need to affect a good terminal effect out of a handgun. Unfortunately, as we add weight to the projectile, we are now adding and increasing its overpenetration capability because it's not going as fast and it weighs a lot. And then we couple that with the fact that it is the hardest platform to shoot at an extremely high level because you have less contact with the firearm. It's a perfect storm, but it is still the most convenient way and typically the firearms platform that we see people have for home defense. So for me, when we talk about caliber wise, when we talk about a home defense handgun, I want somewhere between, a 9mm or a 40 cal, right? Now I know 40 cal, I like 40 cal. I don't care what you got to say. Fight me over it, bro. Dude, 40 cal does some cool stuff, but those two rounds, specifically 9mm and 40 cal, effectively balance the capacity and performance that we can get out of a handgun extremely well while being tolerable and easy to manage in the recoil department, right? We can all agree that a 10mm is better than a 40 cal. However, shooting full house 10 mil out of your smaller firearm that you can still carry because that's what you had on you, bro, those suck to shoot. And I like to shoot things that have recoil. Those suck. Just what it is. That said, there is another option, the far other end of the spectrum out there, like a Taurus TX22, probably the most reliable semi-automatic .22 long rifle handgun ever created. That thing's just freaking awesome, right? I can put a dot on it. I can have a light on it. I can do all this stuff. It's a Taurus TX22. Now, I personally think the TX22 is a fantastic option if you have someone in your household, like my wife, who is more recoil sensitive and is not as scared shooting a TX22. And the reason is .22 long rifle an optimal performer for home defense? Abso-freaking-lutely not. But are you going to argue with like freaking 15 angry bees flying out of a dark room in the household as you walked in the door? No, I ain't either. I don't want to face that. No. Revolvers can also make a good option here, but revolvers have a fundamental problem, and they don't make my recommendation list for the main firearm because of just an extremely low capacity. Even on the highest end we're going to get, you're going to be looking at 8 rounds. Will you solve your problem in 8 rounds? Yes, if you don't miss. I never miss. Bullshit. Everybody miss. It's a fact of shooting, right? Let me crank that stress level up. Let me just wake you up, right? That's another part. People have this weird mental image of how things are going to go. You're going to be asleep more than likely. And you're going to be awoken by your door ceasing to be a door anymore. You really think you're going to grab your stuff, be wired so tight that you're going to have precision perfect marksmanship? Absolutely not. That's not how the real world works. I understand in your fantasy you win every time, but this is not fantasy band camp. We lose sometimes. And the objective in doing this is making sure we lose as little as possible. We do need some accessories for a handgun, right? So when we start talking about a home defense centric handgun, I want any and all like advantage I can get, right? Because I am already shooting the hardest to shoot effectively platform with the worst terminal ballistics that I can ask for, right? I am doing that because of convenience. I want every single possible advantage I can get at this moment, right? I want a red dot because that allows me to have a faster sight acquisition while remaining target focused. It allows me to track that dot and recoil. It allows me to know when I'm going to have a consecutive, consistent, and successful follow-up shot, right? I don't know that with iron sights. It also doesn't matter if it's completely pitch black and I can only see the outline of the dude because I cut my light off. I dropped my light when I started shooting at the dude when I realized he was holding the freaking katana in my front door. Knowing when I can shoot and make good hits is more important than pretty much anything else. I also want a full-size weapon light attached to the gun. Why? Because I just told you, right? Like I had a light in my hand, and I dropped my light, and I started blasting, right? So anyway, I started blasting. The reason, if I had a good full-size weapon light, once I ID'd the threat, I could flip that out of the way and go to my weapon light, and I can now effectively engage the target. But I don't want a BS little 7 sub on my stuff, right? Kind of the minimum I would suggest if you were going to say a home defense firearm is something like the TLR 7 HLX. This is probably the only area this light fits. It's an exceptionally good concealed carry firearm if you can't, for whatever reason, carry a full-size light. But I don't know many people that can't. You just have a bad holster and bad concealment techniques. The gun is concealable, I promise you. But something like this, if this is going to be the only option you have, this is probably the smallest, better option we've got out there. We have something like 20,000 on the Candela Spectre. We have 1,000 lumens. It's effectively the output we would be looking at from a TLR 1HL. But the runtime is really terrible, so don't get into a protracted Mogadishu gun battle in your living room. The big thing, though, with your light is it is giving you critical incident information that you cannot obtain other ways. It is also going to grant me the ability to deter maybe that attacker, maybe a secondary attacker who just saw his buddy become a colander. The ability for you to manage that kind of unknown distance with other people by blinding the living crap out of them with a super effective light cannot be overstated at this moment. I will tell you, as someone that works all night long, lights are the most effective tool I have at managing situations where I don't know what is going on. You know how you fix a situation you don't know what's going on? You put light on it so you can see what's going on. Lights are awesome. They also blind people. It is effectively a great deterrent because if the buddy was like, oh man, my buddy doesn't exist anymore, I can't see anything, he might stop. That's kind of what we want, right? So after we move away from handgun, the next option is probably the most FUD lore packed, touted firearm system that exists on the market, and that is the venerable shotgun. Now, here's the deal. There is the FUD lore that racking a shotgun will scare somebody away. I have said this before in a previous video. The people that ran away when you racked a shotgun would have also run away when you screamed, "I'm calling the cops." Everybody else, you just told them we're about to fight, and now they're ready to fight you. And there is the other side of this spectrum where Clint Smith said something along the lines of shotgun, right load, right distance will physically remove a chunk of crap from your attacker and throw it on the floor. That is 100% accurate. Shotguns are an absolute man stopper. No doubt about it. Shotguns are a man stopper and an extremely versatile tool when it comes to your load selection, because I can tailor a shotgun to do anything I want. Shotgun people rejoice. There's one guy that knows what's about to happen because he was talking to me and asking about shotgun centric questions, and I was like, dude, I got a bunch of stuff coming. There's a lot of shotgun content coming, and some of it's based off of this because I feel like it's important to show you. I will tell you, in the home defense realm, those distances that you would look, center massing that particularly bad Roblox character that has decided to invade your personal space, your domicile, with the intent to do you or your family members great bodily injury or death. You center mass a dude with number 4 buck, it's going to stop that. It is an immediate life choice adjuster. Maybe not for the dude that took the first round of buckshot, but the one behind him is going to extremely quickly reevaluate his life choices and choose a different career path, which is what we want. An 18 or 20 inch thunderstick that you could have loaded with a number 4 buck, a double-aught buck, even a number 4 shot, kind of at the home defense distances we're talking about, is flat out devastating. When you think about double-aught buck, right? Double-aught buck is 9 pellets. It is 9 9mm projectiles at one time. That's awesome, right? The shotguns do have some pretty serious drawbacks. They are not the one-stop shop, the answer to all questions, and they are plagued by the passed down generational FUD lore instruction that is, you don't need to aim them, which is bullshit. We're talking about home defense distances, right? Like my home, I have a 13-yard shot would be my optimal shot that I would look for, right? At 13 yards, I'm going to put a group about this big into my target, maybe this big. I need to aim that, right? Because we can all agree that could happen multiple times just across my chest. I can't just be like, ah, and do it, because it's not going to spread and take out them and the guy behind them. That's not how shotguns work. That is generationally taught FUD lore we need to kill. But after that, we are also faced with another problem, which is amongst the systems we're going to talk about, there is no single comparison that is the recoil of a 12 gauge. There's the recoil, right? If you give a 89-pound woman a freaking 12 gauge with double-aught buck high brass and at full powered stuff, she's going this way a little bit when she fires it, because there is recoil that exists within that system. In addition to the recoil, we also have, without some modifications, extremely low capacity, a very limited capacity here. And there is no doubt about it, it is the most difficult manual of arms to effectively run at a high level, being the pump shotgun. Now, if I top that off with the fact that this is the number 1 culprit of over-penetration risk that we have, man. The shotgun has a lot against it. But then again, it is the only guaranteed man-stopper thing in here. If you center mass the bad guy with double-aught buck at 13 yards, that is not a bad guy anymore. That is a mass that it no longer does anything. That is what happens when you use a shotgun. It is an immediate off switch for most fights that you're going to find. Now, there is somebody that's going to argue the over-penetration thing with me. Let me leave you with this, right? So I use an 18-inch Remington 870 Police Magnum loaded with very special copper, matrix powder breaching rounds. I use a round that is designed to come apart and not stay together, and I will send your deadbolt into a different room. We are literally using something that is not made to stay together to breach a hardened object. There is no more argument about whether or not shotguns overpenetrate. They just do. That's the answer. But here's the thing, while there may be some problems with a shotgun, for a lot of people out there, that is your only option, right? So I'll address the fact that it could be your only option. For me, I'm going to want an 18 to 22 inch barreled 12 or 20 gauge. Somebody's going to say, heck yeah, 20 gauge, less recoil. That is not true, man. 20 gauges recoil just as much as 12 gauges do. You're just getting less stuff out the end of the gun. But, big but, I want a youth model stock. That is going to make that infinitely more maneuverable inside of a structure. It's going to make it much easier to use. It's just awesome. Semi-autos also apply here, but it's got to be a good semi-auto. Beretta M2, M3, M4, Benelli M2, M3, M4. Woo. Beretta 1301, the A300 Patrol, fantastic semi-automatic platforms. The 940 Pro, or the 940 TAC option from Mossberg, fantastic option, all viable. We're definitely going to want to sling on this guy though, right? Because like otherwise we're just going to have to sit it down, and I'm not a big fan of having non-physical control over a firearm when I just had to use a firearm. I want a mounted light. It's preferable for me to get a mounted light. I want better sights, right? Like I want something beyond like the brass bead on the front of the gun. Personally, if I can put a dot on it, it's getting a red dot. If it can't get a red dot, I want like a trough sight in the rear with something that aligns that gun, right? I want something that is not just, oh, the dot's there, or the brass dot's there. I want something that draws my sight picture so that I can be more accurate with the platform, right? But most importantly, the thing that we have to think about with a shotgun is we have to take whatever ammo we're planning to run, and we need to go to the range with it, and we need to shoot it at our designated self-defense distances inside of a home, right? If you have a 5-yard, a 10-yard, a 13-yard, or you're rich as hell and you got a 25-yard shot, you need to go to 25 yards and shoot your chosen load into a silhouette and see what your spread actually looks like. Because I promise you, it isn't what you think. You need to go do that, right? You need to practical application distances in your home stuff. So after we talk about shotgun, the last option is going to be the rifle. While you can use your Grandpappy's deer rifle, I would strongly suggest the semi-automatic platform for obvious reasons. But this is where things like the SKS, the Mini 14, the Mini 30, all extremely viable options in this arena. But for me, guess what it's going to be? It's going to be an AR. Why? There's no other system that I can just fit to me in my situation like I can with an AR. Not to mention the fact it is extremely easy to outfit, and it has an unrivaled ammo selection for it, right? It is a Swiss Army knife, and those are the 97 features of it, man, is the ammo. Things exist when we start talking about this, from 300 Blackout to 22 Art to 350 Legend to my favorite personal option, the 5.56. But more important than the gun or the caliber that we're going to choose, we got to choose the right bullet. I've done a lot of ballistics videos. I'll leave a link to one over here. One of those got flagged. Sorry about that, guys. I can't do anything about it. But the bullet does the work. For me personally, my home defense rifle that I have at home is loaded with a varmint round because I like varmint rounds, man. Tons of energy transfer right up front, lowest risk of over penetration that exists, lowest risk of exit from the hypothetical Minecraft character that is facing off against me. All of that, I get that with a varmint round, right? Thin skinned, instant energy transfer, no risk of over penetration. Even if you miss and you hit like your door frame, that bullet will not stay together coming through that door frame. Personally, you can choose anything, right? I like the 40 grain Varmageddon rounds. I like 53 grain VMAX rounds. I like the Sierra Blitz Kings. Those are fantastic. All of these varmint rounds, again, present us with the lowest risk of over penetration that we can. And there are even options for my guys running like 300 Blackout, man. There's a 110 VMAX that you can just wreck shop with. My next option moving in an AR would be to an open tip match round. I like open tip match rounds. They are very effective, though not as consistently so as a varmint round. Something in that 68 grain to 85 grain if I'm shooting a 5.56, 220 to about 175 if I'm shooting a 300 Blackout. And then finally, the option we're going to have is going to be a monolithic or a bonded round, right? These are the ones that are meant to go through the wall that you didn't want things to go through because you picked the shot. You know what you need to do. For this, we can look at something like the Hornady Black 75 grain SBR load. That is an interlock bonded round, fantastic round, probably the best short barrel load on the market right now. We could do the Barnes 55 grain TSX, TTSX. one of my favorite bonded rounds, the 64 grain SBSP or solid base soft point from Winchester. If you're a reloader, you can find those bullets all over the place. This is also where the gold dot stuff from Spear lives. Bonded, soft point, or solid copper rounds, man. If it's got to go through the wall to get to the dude, man, there's like no better option you're going to have. Now, what about setting up that system, right? We talked about how important sights are, right? Same thing with a rifle. Rifles are the easiest thing we're going to have to shoot, and this is where places like you need a sling, first off, because that's first. Second is going to be I want a red dot or a holographic sight. Why? Because that is the king here. That is a reflex sight. That is, oh, it's there and I shoot, right? I don't need to line up things to make a precise 500-meter shot to hit the left eyeball. I need, yep, they're going into that thing kind of confirmation, and that's what we get with red dots and holographic sights. The only pitfall to holographic sights is they do not stay on all the freaking time. So you might have to remember to turn it on, otherwise you're just looking through a glass square. So don't do that. I need a solid weapon mounted light, right? Personally for me, I like the Noxon T1 head. I like the OKW from Mod Light, the PLH V2 from Mod Light, also fantastic. I want a really, really powerful high candela rifle light. Not because I'm planning on shooting 300 yards away, but because if I can put 60,000 candela into your eyeballs, guess what you're not going to be able to do? See. You're also not going to shoot at the light, but we'll get more into that in a different video. I want my rifle light to have a pressure pad. You know why? Because while I can tell cap activation, I want to know when I let go, the light goes off, right? It's much easier for me on a properly set up rifle to run that effectively while being able to manage my light output, okay? That's going to round up my package for the rifle. I would also add, for me personally, I want a suppressor on my stuff. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk over the years about people that don't want a suppressor because they want the whole world to know something bad had happened. I know the other argument that I have heard numerous times is, but my auditory exclusion. Auditory exclusion is a very real thing. However, the overpressure and sound decibels that existed when you touched off that round still did permanent damage to your hearing, and tinnitus will be your permanent friend. Trust me, ask me how I know. Auditory exclusion is real, and while it didn't seem loud when it happened, the damage that took place from you doing that still freaking exists. So suppressors are the option for me, anyway. So after that, there is one other option that exists out there, and that is less lethal. Now, I am not a fan of less lethal inside of my household for obvious reasons. However, there are people that can't have any of the other options we just talked about, and less lethal is the only thing. I guess technically you could crossbow like Daryl Dixon. But less lethal, like I said, I'm not a fan of less lethal in my home. However, if I'm going to have one option that exists in there, a really good quality, like cone-shaped mist, fogger style pepper spray is awesome. You could use bear spray in this environment, but Palm, who I will be partnering with for some excellent less lethal stuff when we start talking about pepper spray here coming up, they make really good sprays. They have a home defense model with a pistol grip on it and a pin safety. It looks fantastic. I'm going to get one in hands because I want to know. The only problem with pepper spray is, yes, you are seasoning your home for the foreseeable future until you decon it. It's just a thing. But I will say the bullshit that keeps getting spread about, just get your wasp spray. That is not how wasp spray works, right? There is more than one incident that is recorded and has taken place where somebody sprayed an attacker with wasp spray. You know what he did? He beat the person up that sprayed them, took the can of wasp spray and sprayed them in their own face with it. You know what didn't happen? Nobody was blind. Wasp spray doesn't work the same way, right? You know what one of the things that's lethal to wasps is? Nicotine. So if you're nick-fitting tweaker that's breaking into your tweaker Roblox character that's breaking into your home, you might just fix his nick fit. Now he's much more level-headed as he beats the crap out of you and steals everything you own. Don't spray people with wasp spray. Whoever made that up, it's got to stop. So finally, another option we can have, and I highly recommend this to everyone, is what's known as an underwear gun, right? Because you would be amazed at how many violent home invasions take place during the day when they know people are home. Here's the deal. If they're breaking in your house when they know you're home, their intention is to freaking hurt you and steal your stuff. There is no debate about whether or not they knew he was home. You had 3 cars in the parking lot, your kids playing in the backyard. They know you're home. Unfortunately, carrying around your rifle across your chest all the time is not really effective, and that is where something like the underwear gun comes into place. Personally, for me, the Ruger LCR Snubby 22 long rifle. It weighs less than a pound, fully loaded. I load that guy up with Federal Punch. It's an awesome freaking round. I can throw it in my freaking front pocket of my basketball shorts as I wander around the house or veg out on the couch watching the newest episode of Chicago PD, right? Having a gun on you all the time isn't paranoia. It's smart, because that is when a lot of this stuff actually takes place. And the gun in your pocket is your rule one gun, right? First rule of gunfights, have a freaking gun. That is your rule one gun. You can always have it on you without a doubt. And if it does nothing but buy you the few seconds to sprint over to the corner and grab your rifle up and start doing real work, you just bought that with 8 rounds of flying bees at their face. Again, it's not optimal, but it's not about being optimal when we're just solving the problem. So there is some additional equipment we got to talk about. It's the last part of this. So for me, a flashlight, absolutely mandatory. Yes, I know I said to have one on your firearms. That is true, but you need one that isn't attached to a cordless hole punching machine. And no, not your Harbor Freight 200 lumen light that you got on sale, man. That's just as good. No, I mean a really good handheld light, right? I've got some new stuff in from Nightstick that is just blowing me away right now. The Mod Light 18650 PLHV2 head, phenomenal light, man. 1350 lumens, 54,000 candela. Excellent platform for this stuff. Put a therm switch back on there. Now we have retention. Oh man, it's awesome. And before somebody tells me that you're going to blind yourself, man, 1350 lumens, that there's too much. You can blind yourself. If you're in your home and you blind yourself on something you knew was there because you put it there, you're an idiot. And that is a training problem. That is not a function of how many lumens you had. You'd have blinded yourself with a freaking 50 lumen freaking mini mag light. You're an idiot and your training sucks. Don't be that guy. Next up, I like to have a small bag. Personally, you can do the fanny pack option. I like the 511 2-banger bag because it's pretty small. I can throw it across my body and go to work. I like having something like that because even in a hotel, right, where I'm traveling, I got my handgun sitting right there. I can grab that bag and I have everything I need to solve pretty much any problem I'm going to run into. And I'll sit next to it. I'll sit Electronic Ear Pro, right? Because that is a super effective option that is going to give me superhuman freaking hearing and allow me to reduce as much tinnitus as humanly possible. Just a fact. So next up, I would say ammo considerations and picking your shots is a big part of this. If you know how they're going to get in and you pretty much know where they're coming from, you already know if you need to shoot through anything to get to them. So do you need barrier rounds? I don't know. When you plotted this stuff out and figured it out, did you need to shoot through a wall to get to them? If so, you might need barrier ammo. You should already have your shots picked. And in addition to having your shots picked, right, so my front door to my first optimal fighting position inside of my home is 13 yards, right? 39 feet. I have been to the range and I can tell you exactly where my reticle needs to be on my rifle to put the outgoing projectile into the hypothetical like incoming slot of the Roblox character's like left eye hole. You should be able to do that because it's your battleground. You have decided how this war is going to be waged. You should do that. Finally, in additional equipment, I hear this all the time. I want to put on body armor, right? Okay, dude. Body armor, battle belts. Armoring up is a fantasy for 99.9% of people that do not have like a mile-long driveway, early warning systems, and like a butler to tell them somebody's coming down the hallway. You ain't got it like that, man. I mean, maybe you do. I don't have it like that. There is a fight coming, and it's coming right now, whether or not you're ready for it or not. So it would probably behoove you to grab your cordless hole-punching variety of option and then go get your ass ready to deal with the thing that's going to happen. You ain't got time to be messing with friggin' armor. Now, battle belts. If you were to have like a one-piece something set up, T-Rex Orion belt, the ATS belt, I like the ATS belt personally, you could in theory throw that on really quickly and you could just stand there because, I mean, psychological warfare, man, having a naked dude in a battle belt holding a rifle standing in front of you, you've made bad life choices leading up to that moment. Anyway, the perk of having a belt is now I have my mags, I have medical, I have a spot to put my handgun, I have a light, I have restraints, I have everything attached to me. I ain't got to go nowhere. I ain't got to worry about dropping anything. I ain't got to worry about storage. It's already attached to me. Or like I said, personally for me, I opt for the 511 2-banger bag. That guy in there, it's very easy for me to don. I have a flashlight. I have spare batteries. I have some medical equipment in there because, again, if we're playing the gunfight taking game, there is a 50-50 shot you get hit. I like having the medical stuff in there. I like to have an additional flashlight, spare magazines for what I'm doing. I want it there. Now, if you're lucky and you got it like that, I certainly hope you get to don your armor, put on your night vision, and cue Welcome to the Jungle as the bad guy boots in your door, because America and all that fun stuff. So guys, hopefully you found this informative. I, again, am Uncle Fred, and thanks so much for hanging out with me today. So as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and until next time, I'll see you later.